Welcome, everybody. We're going to start in 2 more minutes. This is going to be a very interactive session, so please feel free to come on camera and definitely get ready to throw stuff on the chat. Yep. Okay, I'm just gonna wait 1 more minute and then we will start. Again, this is going to be recorded. Please feel free to turn on your camera so that I don't feel like I'm by myself in this endeavor. Trust me, it's as anxiety provoking for me as this is for you. But Jonathan, thank you for getting on. All right, we have a lot to cover in a little bit of time, so we are going to be starting. Thank you, Edith, for getting on. I appreciate it. We're going to be recording this session. This will be available to you later on if you need to on our website. And I'll give you all of my information, and I am available as well. Okay, so it's 4:03. Let's get started. First of all, you made it. You made it through law school. You've applied for the bar. You got through the worst part ever. Now you gotta apply. Now you gotta study for the bar. It's anxiety provoking, but it's doable. Thousands of people have done it before you. Thousands of people will do it after you. So as much as it feels like the world is coming to a pause, it's only pausing for a couple of weeks and then you'll get on with your life. Okay, so that's the very most important thing. So who am I? I think it's important for you guys to know. Puerto Rican born and raised in the South Bronx. I have taken 3 bars, because I'm a member of New York, New Jersey, and Florida bar. That on this slide is my phone number. It's my actual personal phone number and my LinkedIn. I am telling you, if you're on this call and you need help, call me. I don't have a problem helping, okay? I don't charge for people to call me, and I don't charge for helping. Let me caveat that. I charge pay it forward. At some point in your life, you're going to need to help a student. Please do so in the fact that we all have to help each other, okay? So what we're going to do is going to do general study skill tips, then the bar, and then all you need to know for your subject matters. And my goal is to give you like a top heavy outline, and then you're gonna, like, as you study, you're gonna kind of fill in your outline, okay? And if you have any questions, please throw it in the chat. Unfortunately, Carla, I'm gonna ask you if you could monitor the chat. I can't see it and present at the same time. Y'all,
For sure.
I'm a good attorney, but I am not good with tech. There's limitations to my greatness. Thank you, Carla. So here we go. The first and most important thing is you got to plan it out, right? You could do this. We all have done it, but you have to plan it out. You have to plan to study, honestly, 10 hours a day. Hard stop. I don't care how you do the 10 hours a day, but plan for 10 hours a day. 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, for the next however many weeks it is for your state bar to happen. Sometimes you're gonna go a little bit over. You might like have energy one day and do like 11 hours, and sometimes you're not gonna feel like doing crap because your brain is fried and you could only do 8. Don't go below 8. Why? Because you only want to take this test once. Okay, decide how you want to do it, but decide that you can do it, right? And we're going to talk about the psychology of testing. So one of the things as you noticed from the first slide is, I have a master's degree in counseling, a master's degree in education. Part of what I did before going to law was studying how people study, which is why I'm doing this workshop today. If you have questions, throw it on the chat or take yourself off of mute or just speak. I can't see if you raise your hands. Unfortunately, I can only see the few of you that are on the screen, so just bear with me, okay? There's 4 key elements to getting this exam done and behind you. Proper sleep, proper nutrition, exercise if you already do so. Don't like start running if you haven't been running before. This is not the time to get an injury, to break a leg, hurt your back, none of that, okay? So ideally, post-COVID, you have walked. That's the only exercise that I suggest for those of you who have not done exercise before. Going into the bar, I used to do yoga. There's a YouTube woman who's free, like Yoga with Adrienne, Chicana from Texas. And I was like, I'm gonna follow her. And I was doing that as well as just walking. But if you have not been exercising up until this point, please don't take another thing on, okay? And a mind rest. And what do I mean when I say mind rest? Is a couple of things. First of all, know when you're triggered. If your stomach is starting to like clench, if you're feeling sweaty, if you're feeling like you might need to rest. Okay? Take the rest that you need. So for me, when I was studying for the bar, I took the first morning class because I learned better in the morning. So I would take my Barbie class in the morning. I'd eat, walk for like a mile, and then I'd go back on and start studying, back online and start studying. On a few occasions, I took like the afternoon class because I was tired in the morning. That was just because I needed the rest in the morning. Do what you've got to do to pace yourself. This is absolutely a marathon. And since I don't run, I want you to know this is absolutely long game. Right? I don't really know what a marathon feels like. I've never actually trained for one, but I can tell you this is a long game, right? And I've done 3 bars because I decided to move to Florida after living in New York and taking New York and New Jersey. So I can tell you on all 3 occasions, it was just like pacing yourself. Okay. So the psychology of it. Did you know that to do well on this test, 30% is how you think about it. So your brains are brains. This is the frontal lobe, and this is like the rational part, and this is your fight and flight section, your hypothalamus, right? If you tell your brain that you're going to get the most points on this exam, your brain is wired to prove you right. I know it sounds crazy, but think about it. If you don't remember somebody's name and you're like, Fulanita, what was her name? And then like 5 hours later, it pops up into your brain, like in your frontal lobe, and you remember, that's because when you tell your brain something, when you speak to yourself, the back of your brain hears it first. That's the closest to your body. It'll hear it first, and it starts processing the information you want. And then it'll push it to the front of your brain, your frontal lobe. So 30% of passing this test, as crazy as it is getting yourself in the right mindset. Record for yourself on your own phones. You can record your own voice. Definitions that you're going to memorize, and we're going to talk about that. And also record, this is, whatever your name is, this is Grisel, I'm going for the most points. That's all you have to do. Record that sentence and listen to it every day, because your brain is wired to prove you right. That's why biases exist, right? So what you want to use is your own brain for your own advantage. The other 70% is your study habits, right? 8 to 10 hours a day, aim for 10. You're taking absolutely every single exam that you can, every single practice question, and we'll talk about that. So what you want to do is you want to see how that fell off. Your study habit's going to fall off at some point during this testing period, during this prep period. You're going to want to give up. That is totally normal and okay. On that day, on the day it happens, on the first day it happens, power through for half an hour more. On the second day it happens, power through 15 minutes. On the third day it happens, power through an hour. Why? Because you always want to have a plan B, right? Life happens on plan Bs, right? Everybody says like life is what happens when you plan something else. So you want to plan for when your study habits are going to fall off, and they are, because you're going to get tired, and it's okay. It's normal, okay? So now I want to talk about how you think, you all of you personally. So what I want you to do is, let's pretend that it's your birthday and I give you a box and a bicycle in it, okay? How do you build the bike? Do you look at the pictures? Do you read the manual? Or do you skip the manual and try putting the pieces together? Can you throw it in the chat or raise your hands and tell me, like, throw it in the chat to see what you guys do. What's your first instinct? I'm gonna pull up the chat. A and B, B's, a lot of B's, read the steps, a couple of A's. Can you raise your volume? Can you hear me better now if I do this? Yes? I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me know. I will now talk louder. But yeah, A and B's, and so what we're gonna do is we're gonna test this theory, okay? So what this means is let me cut this off here. Okay, so for those of you who picked A, you look at the pictures. That means you're an auditory, that means you're a visual learner. It means that you like combinations of pictures and ideas and graphs, okay? And we're gonna think about how you're gonna study for the bar based on that need. For those of you who picked B, you're considered an auditory learner. You listen to combinations of words and make up sentences in your head. And for those of you who said A and B, you're kinesthetic learner. So you're gonna be able to manipulate data to remember it. Can you guys hear me now? Can somebody say yes or no? Yeah, okay. If I go low, those of you who are on screen, can you go like this to me so that I know to raise my voice, please? Thank you. Okay, so now we're gonna try a little experiment with all of us. For this first set of questions, I'm gonna give you 5 word sets, right? What I want you to do, not write it down, I want you to think about in your head a picture that's gonna remind you about these word sets, okay? So, monkey, red. Make a picture that reminds you of monkey, red. Crisscross, dance. Crisscross, dance. Brown, power. Brown, power. Paper, yellow. Paper, yellow. And king, feet. Okay, so I want you to have pictures in your head that remind you of those word combinations. Now you're gonna take a breath. Second set. Now you're going to do an auditory combination. So what I want you to do is think of a sentence that matches these 2 words, okay? Cup, crystal. Cup, crystal. Koala, kitty. Koala, kitty. Airplane, doctor. Airplane, doctor. Harmony, learner. Harmony, learner. And super water. Okay? Now take a deep breath. Next set. So with this last set, you can make up a picture or think of a sentence. I don't want you writing it down because that would be cheating, right? Just think of it in your head. Blueberries, raisins. Blueberries, raisins. Tattoo, Christmas tree. Tattoo, Christmas tree. Stripes, telephone. Stripes, telephone. Coffee, building. Coffee, building. And Princess Lakes. Princess Lakes. Okay? Now take a deep breath and you reset your brain. Why am I asking you to take a deep breath in between? Again, front lobe, back. Your back of your brain, when you get anxious, You didn't think you were going to get a test on this workshop, did you? Will take over. When you take a deep breath, you have your frontal brain, your rational brain, taking over. So now what I want to do is I'm going to ask for the combination, okay? So when I say dance on the chat, throw which word you think goes with dance. On the chat or raise your hand. Which word do you think goes with dance? Chris Pratt, yes. Yes. That's my tag. Maybe. Okay. Which word goes with harmony? On the chat or raise your hand or, screen it out. Learner, airplane, harmony. It is learner. Which one goes with Christmas tree? Which one goes with Christmas tree, y'all? Tattoo. Yes. Which one goes with late yellow? Y'all remember? Which one goes with yellow? Paper, right? In my mind, legal paper is the first thing I thought of, right? Big fat legal pads. Water. What goes with water? Lake. Princess. Princess. What goes with lake is princess. What goes with water is super. Super water. Right? And that's super important. Those of you who combine princess, lake, and water and super, really, really important, because that is actually exactly what's going to happen on the bar test. There's always a right answer and the super right answer. So you're going to have 2 right answers on the bar test, and what you're looking for is the most right answer. So it's super important, and I don't mean to use the word again, but it is important to understand what kind of a student you are, and to understand that in the bar exam, there is going to be combinations of words or ideas that really are close together. So just in case, these are the combinations I read out to you. What I want you to look at is whether or not, based on this stuff, which one was easier for you? Was it easier to remember pictures, or was it easier to remember words? Can you put that on the chat? Was it easier to remember pictures or to remember words?
Pictures for sure.
Pictures for me too.
Yeah.
I'm a picture girl. Visuals, pictures. Yeah, pictures. Anybody auditory? Anybody on the auditory side? Pictures for me too. Yeah, a lot of us are pictures, right? So what do we have to do? If you're studying for the bar, I'm gonna move you guys. If you're studying for the bar, what I want you to consider is the things you need to do to create the outline that works for you. Because in law school, they always say, oh, the outlines. I freaking hated the outlines. They were horrible for me. It was a horrible experience because I am a visual learner. So writing outlines was like, it was really counterintuitive, and it made me feel stupid, frankly. Until I started to draw graphs and boxes and started to use flashcards, I wasn't getting. I know it sounds crazy, but that's my experience, right? So what I want to do is save you from my experience. If you're a visual, think about doing boxes, doing pictures, looking at videos online. Please make sure that they're legit videos. Don't look at like YouTube videos. Look at like the Barbie videos. If you're an auditory learner, make up songs, make up music, DVDs. Forgive me, I just showed my age. But make up your own videos. Make up a YouTube channel on how hard it is to take the damn test. I tried looking for yesterday, I didn't find anybody. And if you're kinesthetic, there's a combination, a physical combination that's going to work for you. So for kinesthetic learners, visual learners too, you need to physically move. Study evidence in the park. Study constitutional law in a classroom. There's a physical component to memory that you will build in. And you will remember, and think about it, when you were studying for exams, when you studied in a room that you didn't normally study, or with people you didn't normally, you still remember those folks. You still remember that time. because there was a physiological component to it. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions thus far? All right, so now I'm going to show how much of a nerd I am. So when we think about contracts, let me move you guys, sorry, if I have you on the screen. When we think about contracts, it's an agreement that requires the meeting of two or more minds, offer, acceptance, and consideration have been exchanged. That is the definition of a contract. Memorize it just like that, okay? Don't get fancy about it. You take your basic terms and you memorize one sentence that is the definition. It's not you're going to write contracts 20 essays and 20 different times you want to write it differently. No, you memorize one sentence. You know why? That right there is a 2-point answer. Actually, a 2.5 answer if you're taking the New York or New Jersey bar, because it has all of the elements and it has the consideration is considered a separate point. And if you miss offer and acceptance, they'll take off a half a point. So right there, I'm giving you 3 points. Remember the start of this thing? What are you saying? Hi, I'm Grisel. I'm getting the most points on this test, right? So if you're a visual learner, this is how you're going to do it. You're going to create a visual map of what an offer is, what an acceptance is, what a consideration is. Remember that contracts is not the study of what makes a contract. When they're testing the bar exam, they're testing what makes the exception. What is the problem to the contract, right? They're not giving you a test where the contract is obvious. They're giving you the test question is going to be where the contract might have gotten messed up, right? So when you're looking at it, you want to know what went wrong where. And when you're writing your essays, make sure you remember remedies. When you practice as an attorney, I don't care what the contract says until I know how much exposure I might have. So you always want to remember remedies, even if your law school professor didn't emphasize it. Some law school professors start with it, some end with it, and some forget it a little bit in between. But when you're practicing, how much is this going to cost me is the first question you're going to ask or your client's going to ask you. So what happens if you're an auditory learner? Same thing. The contract is an agreement created by the meeting of two or more minds for which an offer, acceptance, and consideration have been exchanged, right? Bear with me. I get kooky. So just for you guys, I created songs. Songs, right? Contract results from an offer, acceptance, and consideration. There are, however, many alterations. You can get big money, little money, or no cash at all, but you definitely get something if you get into a crash. Make your songs. Or when I say I do, I gotta get it done. Otherwise, it's a breach, and that's no fun. Anticipatory breach comes before the break. It says the deal is stale, so you have to act in haste. There's time to cure, there's time to play, gotta get it done today. Trust me, you'll remember me singing when you see that anticipatory breach on the test. I've done this workshop for 5 years. I always get somebody emailing me like, I heard you singing in my brain. I'm sorry if I don't have the best singing voice, but I am an attorney. That's what you want to do. Whatever makes you smile, whatever makes you remember, that's what you want to do. And if you're a kinesthetic learner, you combine that with a physical component. Okay? So with a kinesthetic learner, it might be making flashcards, right? It might be going out and making a song. It might be making a video. It might be cutting and pasting pieces from your different study guides. I had a friend who did that. I was like, you are crazy. You are cutting and pieces. She's like, I don't know, but it's working. Whatever works for you. You should understand that this test is hard, but it's not tricky. They're not trying to trick you. They're trying to make sure you understand the material. But to understand the material, you have to have your definitions absolutely, positively memorized. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so subject matter tips. This is the stuff that's gonna, make or break. When you're looking at constitutional law, look for the cross or look for the T if you don't want to be religious. But basically, constitutional law is who crossed who. When did when did the judiciary cross into the legislative? When the executive decide that they were going to try to be like judicial, right? That's constitutional law in a nutshell. When did federal step into state? When did state step into federal? That's what they're testing. Where did the cross happen? Who stepped on whose hands, right? Who stepped on whose feet? Crim law. You start with your strongest charges. Whatever your essay is on crim law, you start with the strongest charges. You argue that the charge is not accurate. You argue it again for 2 more rounds. You suggest a plea bargain in every single essay for crim law that includes some kind of charge. You argue why defense would argue that there should be a plea bargain. And then you try to add a victim statement, right? So when you're doing the essays for crim, they're going to give you a thing and they're going to say, what should Grisel be charged with? Grisel should be charged with X. Her defense attorney is going to say Y, and you go back and forth, right? Highest charge, lowest charge, and you meet in the middle. That is how actually crim law works in the world. So what you write on your essay, it will look like what it looks like in the real world. Contracts, learn the exceptions, right? What are the exceptions of the list out on your outline? There should be a list of the exceptions to what makes an offer. Your next page in your outline should be the list of the exceptions to an acceptance. And then the consideration, right? What's a consideration? What is sufficient enough for it to be a consideration? Do a separate section or rhyme or flashcard or whatever for UCC that is tested separately. Parole evidence rule is always in the essays in some way, shape, or form. Oh, sorry. And never, never, never forget consideration. Okay? Everybody with me? Yeah? Okay, cool. So, here we go. Torts. Duty, breach, cause harm. Every single law school essay, every single bar exam, duty, breach, cause harm. And you should have memorized a definition of duty, a definition of breach, a definition of cause, right? Duty is a responsibility and obligation to others or whoever it might be. Breach is a break or violation of the duty that you caused by whether it's anticipatory breach, obligation, whatever it might be. And the harm caused to the individuals or the participants is why. Harm is damage or injury to the participants. You have to know your definitions. Your job is to get the most points. Your job is not to get an A on the bar exam. Your job is to get at least a B, right? Because if you get a B, you're straight in. If you get a C, you know what you are? An attorney. You're an attorney. So don't stress about getting the A. Stress about getting the most points. And property, there's 4 basic rules of property. 99% of possession is property, right? Whoever possesses think about it, adverse possession. Who had the rabbit? Who killed the rabbit? In which state did it happen? In the bar exam, on questions where you see neighbors talking at the fence, nothing good comes with neighbors talking at the fence. That is a bochinche in my household. But in the bar exam, it's a point. So when you see 2 neighbors talking at the fence, check it out twice. Look at it twice. Make sure that you are covering whatever points they might be giving. If you can smell it, taste it, or get sick from it, you got to claim it, right? I have, not in the last 5 years, but prior to moving to Miami, I used to grade the bar exams. And people would always forget nuisance. I don't know why. Like they just, if you could smell it and get sick of it, even if it doesn't say the neighbor, Griselita or Fulanita got sick, but if it says Fulanita could smell it, you could write in your essay, nuisance is and you write the definition, and then you say, it's possible that Grisevita has a claim for nuisance. Never, ever, ever leave points behind. If in your brain you think, it might be, just write it. Because if it's not true, the bar exam doesn't deduct points on your essay. You only get points. So it's okay to write it. If you're completely wrong, it's okay. No one's gonna know, because the bar examiners aren't gonna be like, oh, let me post this, Fulanita got that wrong. No, we're looking for points. Your job is to get the most points. And easements make it easy to cross, but if you cross me, I will divest you of your easement, right? It's very simple because I'm Puerto Rican from the South Bronx. No me joda. That's the rule of easement. No me joda, right? So, general tips. Take as many practice tests as you can, and as much in a group setting. Go to the park and take practice exams. Go to the library, take practice exams. Go to, your parents' house and take practice exams. Why? Because at the bar exam, people cough, people sneeze, I had this guy next to me. After the 5th time, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to kill him and his sniffles. You don't know what you're gonna have next to you. When my sister took the bar exam, somebody got up and literally threw up next to her, right? You don't know what you're gonna be faced with. Just take it in a group setting as many times as you can. Make sure you write an outline that matches your learning style. I can tell you that when I was doing outlines that were word-wise, all they did was make me anxious, right? You need to look for a style that matches you so that you are studying your words and you are getting the most points, right? Read the question first. Always read what they're looking for first. Because on the bar exam, some bar exam questions are, they have a lot of fluff in between, and they have like 5 or 6 paragraphs, but they're only asking you about paragraph 3. So make sure you read the call of the question first. Some subjects are about the law. Tort, criminal, real estate, all about the law. And some subjects are about the exception to the law. Contracts and constitutional law, right? Contracts is about looking for what's the exception. Is there really an offer? Is there really an acceptance? Con law is about who crossed who, right? Who got into whose business when they should not have. So you need to know the difference. With evidence, you argue why the data comes in or is left out. And I can tell you, in the real world, I'm a litigator, we argue evidence like there's no tomorrow. 403 is my baby. Me and 403, we are friends, because I will argue that this is not relevant to the end, right? If they're asking you for a policy question, some bars are known. California does this, Florida does this, Minnesota does this. Why Minnesota does that, I don't know. But if they ask you to make a policy, think of two audiences, young, middle age, or older, and you put a full paragraph about if this policy was implemented, this would result in teenagers, or teenagers would think this, or older people would think X, right? In international law, think of the pros and cons of neutral countries, right? And remember, if you're not sure about something, while you're studying, ask your teachers, ask your classmates, ask your mentors. HNBA has 3,000 members who have passed the bar. Whatever question you might have, we will have somebody who has practiced that. And I will say, I'm born and raised poor, so I didn't have this. I didn't have someone I can be like, hey, mommy, what does this mean? Or hey, papi, what does that mean? But my colleagues who are very well off did that, right? So don't spin your wheels. If something is really hard and you're not getting it, if rules of perpetuity is not for you, that's okay. Call one of us. One of us will be able to explain it to you. It might take a day to get you aligned with somebody, but we will get somebody who can help you. So don't feel like, oh, just because I don't know this, I'm like beating my head and I'm never going to learn this. That's not what you're here for. You are here to get the most points, right? So make sure that you ask for help when you need it. Quick tips on your essays: make a vocabulary list and memorize it. The most important voice in your head is your own voice. Record your definitions and play them as you walk to your bar exam class, as you're running, as you're exercising, as you're walking, whatever it is. Make your vocabulary list and memorize it. Then record it and listen to it. What does that do? It gives you, all of you, a kinesthetic action, right? It's giving all of you both the physical component of writing it down, the verbal component of speaking it, and because what you say to your brain is what it's going to prove you right, you will be able to memorize it in the back and in the front of your brain. Your introductory sentences should have all the elements of the issue. If you saw the definition of contract, it was all in one sentence. Every time you start an essay, put all the elements in. Let's say that this is an issue of a tort, and the only problem that's in the problem is a breach, right? There's definitely, absolutely sure that there's a duty and there was definitely a breach. Sorry. You want to write duty, breach, cause, harm. The duty is, the breach is, the cause is, the damages are, right? So let's say there's only damages. You still do duty, breach, cause, harm. Duty is, breach is, cause is, damages are. In this question, we're focusing on damages, okay? But your elements should all be there. Every single element is a full point, so make sure you put it in. I have seen essays where the person writes a beautiful essay about the damages, but missed the point on duty and breach because they didn't give it to me. And if you don't give it to the examiner, they can't give your point. We can all assume you knew it. I remember this young woman's essay and I know she knew it, but I couldn't give her the points. I've also been on the side where we debate failing somebody because they didn't get points. And something as simple as giving the definition would have gotten them over that hump. So just get used to the points, right? Underline the legal terms and provide definitions for each. When you are looking at 100 or 500 essays for as a bar examiner, right, a bar tester, the person who underlines the definitions or underlines the legal terms, I know they're there. Point, 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 boom. I start with the points. I'm already biased towards this person because they made my job easier and they gave me that they had the points, right? So use the test examiners bias against them in your favor, right? In your favor, underline the question. If you're taking it on computer, highlight it. By the way, if you take underline it also on the computer. If you are in a state that does paper and computer, there have been computer gaps. There have been computer glitches every single year. There's a state that something goes wrong with the software. Breathe. You won't be the first one, but decide whether you want to put yourself up for that. So I took in paper each of my exams. So I was like, I can't. My brain will freeze if the computer freezes on me, right? But some people take it on the computer and they do stellar. So it's just, you got to think about who you are, okay? Not everything has to be a sentence. Mind blowing, I know. If you're looking at your time yourself, and you know that you have an hour for each essay, and it is at time 55, do not take any time from your other essay. Do not steal from yourself. If you've allotted an hour and it is 10 minutes before the end of that hour, you can bullet point the rest of your essay. Because again, my job as an examiner is to give you points. It's not to check your grammar on your essay. So don't worry about your grammar, right? If you're gonna say a tort is duty, breach, cause, harm, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, 4 bullet points, and definition, then as an examiner, look how pretty it is. Boom, 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 boom. I've got it all there, right? So don't worry about your grammar. Don't worry about being beautiful. Don't worry. No. Points. This is all a game. Not everything has to be a paragraph. And create shortcuts at the very beginning, right? At the very beginning, whatever the name is, Paula or Devin, or, they always like give you names. Some examiners in some states do this, and I don't know why. They'll say Devin for the plaintiff, and then people confuse their initials. Name whoever you want the plaintiff, name whoever you want as the defendant, and just stick to P and D. You never have to write their names again. Okay? Don't confuse your plaintiff and your defendants. I've seen that happen, and it's heartbreaking. Start with the essays that are the most points. Just like your exam, your regular exams in the bar, there's some bar exams that have greater points. New York does this, for example. Texas does this, for example. You take that exam, that essay question, and you start with that. I'll tell you, when the bar examiners get the test back, it's not, every examiner doesn't do every test. All you do is the question you're slotted for. So if I'm slotted for the torts, I'm a torts attorney. I do employment law. So I'm slotted for the tort question. All I read is the tort question. I don't see your other questions. So it doesn't matter if you just start a new book. Start a new book for every essay. Don't stress about it, okay? Don't overthink it. You're just trying to get your points. And as always, read the question first. Know what you're looking for, because sometimes they're going to give, some states, Chicago, Illinois, they give like big fact patterns, and you're really only focusing on one or two of them. So just read the call of the question. That's also super important when you're doing your multiple choice, right? Your multiple choice, the call of the question is going to be super critical. Read that first. Please watch your penmanship. If you're starting to go like this because you're so anxious, stop. Do what we did when we were doing the workshop before. Take a deep breath, right? It forces your frontal lobe to take over, and it'll slow you down. The way of getting around that, again, is if you underline or if you circle, then at least I know if the chicken scratch is good enough, that something in there needs my attention, okay? But watch your penmanship if you're taking it on paper. And practice outlining essays every single day. It does not mean practice writing essays every single day. You can if you want to, but you should not. You should be writing like 1 or 2 essays, practice essays completely a week. But what you should be doing is outlining bullet points or any kind of outlines every single day. Take 1 or 2 essays. If you come across an essay you have no clue, it's okay. Don't panic, because nobody goes in knowing everything. Make a note, pick another essay, and then tomorrow you go back to that essay and you figure out what topic it is, and then you figure out in your bar exam book what the section is. Does that make sense? If you're starting to panic, pause and know that it's completely normal. We've all been there. As much as I would love to be like, no, this is such a, no. We've all been there. We all panic. We all fall off the wagon. It's okay. Come back on it. Okay? Any questions thus far? No? And you could call at any time. Here we go. Stay focused. Stay focused is, remember that this is about your exam. The hardest part is when people want to invite you to go out, and everybody says this, like during the summer, everybody has weddings, everybody has, like, it's post-COVID, todo el mundo quiere salir, everybody wants to go out. You need to stay focused. Why? Because you only want to take this test once, right? I'm Puerto Rican. My mom was alive when I took the test, and I remember her getting like really upset because I wasn't going to like a family like barbecue. And I was like, do you want me to take this twice or just once? Because I'm just trying to do this once. And it's super important, because if you don't pass the bar, it's okay. You have another chance. But it's 4 or 5 months of your life that you're going to be in god-awful limbo. So don't do that to yourself. Stay focused. Stay connected to other law students who understand the pressure, right? Stay connected to attorneys that can help you. Stay connected to the HNBA. Again, if there's a question, we've got 3,000 members. Somebody in the HNBA world will know the answer and will help explain this topic to you. Stay connected to people who get the level of stress that you will be under, which is undescribable, right? Undescribable. But I made it. 3,000 other people have made it. You will make it too. Study. Study. Study means you do your outline, you practice your questions, you condense your information. By the time you go into the bar, you should be having maybe 3 pages, 4 pages of stuff to study, right? You have to memorize. Memorize the first, like if you think about your summer, break it up into thirds. Your first third, you're just memorizing. Your second third, you're really like trying to understand the material and integrate it. And your last third, you are taking every single practice question you can get your hands on. Every single one. Law professors usually put like practice tests on in the library when they're taking just the regular subject test. Take those for crim, take those for con law, like go back and review them. And you got this. You totally got this. We will all make it out. You're not alone. We all make it out together. Okay. So I know it sounds crazy and it's hard, but you've got this. Now I took the PowerPoint out. Is there any questions? Does anybody have a question? Any tip that you want to talk about? Anything that you need before we get off? Because this is super important. This is your time. You're getting free. No questions? Okay.
I have a question. I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand. When you say study for 10 hours a day, did you mention like how many weeks, months, years even? I'm just kidding. Like how long that's supposed to last for?
Hi, Mariana. It lasts from the day you start your bar exam class to the day you take the test. It's 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, every day. It's just, you want to take this test once, just once.
Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Before
Mariana's gonna
everybody,
say something. Go ahead.
yeah, no, by the way, I did put my number on the chat. I'm Mariana Bravo. I'm the president of the Hispanic National Bar Association. And what I really want to tell you is congratulations. You have just finished 3 years of law school, or 4 years, however many years it's taken you, whether it's night or during the day. But I'm incredibly proud of all of you, and I can't wait for you to join the profession. And I hope that you take a moment before you start studying for the bar to just recognize and embrace your achievements and spend time with your family and friends. But I love seeing all of you. And as I mentioned, I put my number in the chat. You are welcome to call me. I will not be able to help you with the rule of perpetuity. So if you do have a question related to that, I'm not your gal. But you know, if you just need a minute or two or a half hour, whatever it is, please don't hesitate to call me, even if it's to talk about, you know, something completely unrelated to the bar. You just want to take a breath. You know, it's a intense time, but it can also be super fun. You know, as you're kind of navigating your way through some of these subjects and just appreciating that you're going to be putting it all to use. Not all of it, some of it to use as you start practicing. But I really am going to be praying for all of you. I'm going to be thinking of all of you and wishing you the best of luck. Just remember to take a breath. And, you know, some days if you can't do the 10 hours, Grisela's going to get upset with me.
No, I said you could cheat.
Yeah. Sometimes if you can't. But anyway, good luck to all of you. And as you know, from the bottom of my heart, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions. Someone asked, do you recommend working part-time and studying? If I don't recommend it, but if you think you can handle 10 plus whatever else, of course, right? But I don't generally recommend it. I always think like it's a cost savings analysis for me. Like if you're working part-time, for 10 weeks, it's a lot of stress on your body, but more importantly, you only want to take this test once. So anything that might deviate you from taking the test is not something I advise. One last tip for those of you who are still on, I'm gonna show you. There's ways of resetting your brain. So you see this part here, this bone right here. If you tap it, I know it sounds crazy, but if you tap it, there's all of this psychology that if you tap that and you take a couple of breaths, right, and you say, I'm gonna take the most points, you tap it, and then you tap your brow, I'm gonna get the most points. You tap that 10 times. All jokes aside, there's a psychology to it. And then you tap here 10 times. I'm gonna get the most points. There's a physiological release of epinephrine. So it'll actually allow you to study more effectively. I don't know why, but these are like pressure points. So you start with the bone here, you go to your brow, you go underneath your brow here, and that will actually reset your brain. There's something about the tapping that causes your brain chemistry to change. So if you're nervous or anxious, one deep breath, a couple of tappings, and you're golden. Okay? You guys got this. You guys got this. And ask us if you need help. You're not alone. You are not alone. We all have been in that panicked mode. So ask us. Great. Awesome. So I'll stay on if you have any more questions, but that's the end of the session.
Thank you, Grisel.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate
you
it.
all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.